let me give some of a couple tips, I guess, if anybody wants to try and learn a language. So this is going to sound like no duh in the beginning, but if you've tried to learn a language, it'll maybe make some sense, is focus on the vocab first, not the grammar. Because language learning is like definitely, I think, mostly about learning the words. And that sounds like obvious, right? But
Yeah.
what happens all the time, most of the time when people learn a language, they pick up a book or something, or they go online or whatever, and they're hit with grammar first. Or that's where they want to start. They want to understand the structures of the sentences. And while that's important eventually, it's just like it's impossible to just understand all of that in the beginning. You're
Yeah.
just not going to. You might understand like one or two things, but you're not, those things need to become like internalized on a level that like you don't need to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just going to come with time. Whereas if you just learn the vocab, and you can learn vocab pretty quickly,
Yeah.
for the most part, especially with Spanish, when a lot of things look similar to English words. Um, so you can learn the vocab pretty quickly. And so even if the grammar's off, you can understand, oh, okay, he was talking about the trash can and he was saying something about, the swimming pool or whatever. Like, I don't know exactly I don't know who was in there or what, but I know it was a swimming pool and then there was a trash can, and I can put all that together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think vocab is definitely the way to start. Um, and that's
Would you start with nouns or verbs first?
nouns.
Nouns first.
Well, I guess it could go either way, but like, so I just started learning Arabic, which is completely foreign to me, 100%, like zero anything foundational in that,
Different alphabet.
completely. And so I started with the grammar, making my own mistake.
Uh,
And then this is where I realized this is I stopped caring about the grammar and started learning, just trying to learn as many words as I could and forgetting about the grammar. And now I can understand a lot more of the stuff when I read it. Like if I read a children's book in Arabic, it makes a hell of a lot more sense now just because I know what the words are.
mm-hmm.
Whereas, and then like if you know what the words are, especially if you're reading, you can kind of infer what the grammar means, right?
Yep.
Like we might say a black box, but if you're reading and it says box black, you can put that together in your head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can figure out what they're talking about.
Does Arabic follow that structure?
For the
Noun,
most
then
part,
adjective?
yeah, it seems like it does for the most part, like similar kind of to Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And it has that feminine masculine thing too, which is annoying again.
Right, right. So that was actually bringing up learning the vocab. Duolingo is extremely good for learning vocab.
Yeah, a lot of people, when I started learning Spanish and then I was like Googling like resources for it, a lot of people will hate on Duolingo.
I
Um,
don't know why.
I get it, actually. I do get it. But what I would say is it's phenomenal when you're just starting and you don't have
Yeah.
anything. It is phenomenal, I think. Um,
I'm going to put an asterisk there because I spent some time on Japanese, and anything with what is it, the Roman alpha or the Greek alphabet is really well put together and easy to navigate. But when you have to learn new characters, like you need a piece of paper and you just need to write the characters in your
yeah.
hands. You need
Yep.
to feel what that thing feels like before you move on.
Yep. Definitely. That's what I
But
did.
if you get across that barrier, then it's a lot easier. And you can like, that's again where you can, I don't know about listen to a podcast, but you could like listen to music and you're just like, this is what one looks like. It's these strokes. Yeah. I'm going to do it the same way every single time. And then that way, when you go over to the word, you can at least sound out the word. Yep. And then you still don't know what it means, but then you go back to the vocab and you can go that way too. So that would be my only caveat.
No, that's the exact process I went through with Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, to your point, I did Spanish Duolingo for a while in the beginning, and I thought it was great for the beginning. But then I tried the Arabic Duolingo also, and I didn't get as much out of that. So to your point, I think that's right. But the reason I think people hate on it is because it just doesn't get you to that next level of like, really ultimately you need to get to a point where you can like listen to, I mean, ideally if you could listen to a podcast, like a native podcast, and
Yeah.
understand it, like that's the ultimate goal. But you can also like get to a point where you can at least reading's easier. So you want to be able to read like the newspaper or something like that, or like whatever your favorite type of book is.
Something with like a 7th or 8th grade reading level, like English. When they write in the newspaper, they're not writing collegiate English.
Right.
Simple words, the same words over and over again.
Because then once you can get to a point where you can read at least, then you can just consume all the content you want. You can just consume it, and then it can just, you're going to start to pick up on things, on grammatical things. You're going to start to learn new words. You're going to be interested. So yeah, you got to get to that level.
So the notes that I took, because I would say in Spanish class in school, I got relatively good at vocab, but there wasn't enough time just hammering in the reps of the words. So literally that would be like the most valuable piece. I totally agree with you. If I were to rewrite the program. So I pulled up, so Tim Ferriss is like, he speaks like 8 or 10 languages. And one of the things that he talks about is, so you say you were like an 80% Spanish speaker, maybe 75%, 90%?
In that somewhere in that ballpark.
Like yeah. B plus, you could go to and communicate and be okay.
Yeah, I say as long as that person is realizing what level I'm at,
yeah,
then I can communicate with them. Only if they're trying to intentionally not let me follow, you know,
which they might do.
You never know.
But one of his craziest tips is, so you're learning Spanish, you know Spanish, and you're trying to learn Arabic. Don't learn your third language from your first. Learn your third language from your second.
Yes. I do that a little bit with my vocab. I'll write the words. I have an app on my phone. I'll just put the definition in Spanish, and then like the Arabic version, obviously Arabic.
Yeah. And Duolingo is cool for that because you pick your language and then you pick the language that you want to learn. So French to English is a little bit different than German to English. So then you take German to English, and then you take English to French. And a quote from my wife, it felt like a part of my brain that I'd never used before was just waking up for the first time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do have, so here, it's right actually behind the computer. So I have this book here. It's called Mastering Arabic, and it's in English.
With 2 CDs? That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's in English, obviously, but this is actually a good point. I'll just show you like one thing in here. So they have like basic paragraphs in here that you can learn to read. And like, for example, like that paragraph right there, I got to a point where I was able to read that.
Oh, nice.
And like understand what it means also, not just like pronounce the words.
For all of those of you who are listening, Tyler just showed a picture of an Arabic paragraph.
But if you read it in English, it's like literally maybe a 1st grade or 2nd grade reading level. Like it's like, there is a house and on the house is a bird, and like that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you got to get to that point eventually, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I was getting at with that book is, yes, learn your third language and your second language, but I'm not like a native speaker in Spanish. Mm-hmm. I'm not even completely fluent yet. So it definitely helps to have some of the more complex topics explained to me in English.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You can, like, even when I read books, there are words that I don't know the definition of, but you read the context clues around it and you find out, basically you get the gist of what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got to tell everyone on the internet, Ty has become fascinated by Spanish soap operas.
No, not the soap operas. Not the telenovelas. No.
You don't love the telenovelas?
No, I'm not a soap opera person. but they do have a lot of good Netflix shows that are in Spanish that aren't all, I don't know how you would describe them, but soap opera-y, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But
That's funny.
no, I do love watching. We just recently watched, we just finished like maybe 2 weeks ago. We watched the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe in Spanish.
How are the voice actors?
Not bad. Not bad.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I didn't know that was actually the first time I wanted to, every time I watched something in Spanish, I either wanted it to be like made in Spanish
Right.
or I wanted it to be animated. So that way I wasn't distracted by the dubbing, you know, the voice dubbing. So that was actually like the first thing that I watched that wasn't made in Spanish, but I watched it in Spanish. And the dubbing didn't bother me. I thought it was going to bother me and it didn't.
Cool.
So that just opened up like a whole world of possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And that's an excellent excuse to rewatch all of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.